News First, face to face with Jamal Ratnayaka.
A very good evening and welcome to this Monday's edition of Face to Face, coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. For the Newsfirst team, I am Jamal Ratnayaka. This evening, my guest is attorney at law Lihini Fernando, representing the main opposition, Samagi Janapala Vega. She is also a former member of the Moratuwa Municipal Council. Very good evening to you, Lihini, and welcome back on the show.
Good evening, Jamal, and thank you for having me today.
So, Lihini, let's get the ball rolling on what the people seem to be, or rather the politicians seem to be preoccupied with these days. Will there or will there not be an election, any form of election, be it the presidential election, the general election, or the long-forgotten local government polls? Because we know local government polls will allow the people in a participatory democracy to engage more with their policymakers, because that is known as the more grassroots level entity or institution when it comes to the administrative structure. So, being a member of the Moratuwa Municipal Council, I want to get your opinion on this particular matter first and foremost.
So, Jamal, actually, if you look at a country that values democracy, if the country is governed by leaders who value democracy, they will make sure and they will ensure that elections take place at the right time. Right. Because elections, the sovereignty in this country is vested with the people, and that's what the Constitution says, and it is the right of the people to choose its leaders at the right time. So, no leader who is in office should block any form of election. Now, this year is declared an election year, presidential election year. So, the presidential election must happen. Now, right now, we are in a situation, people are saying, whether will it happen, will we go to a complete abolition? So, there's a lot of ambiguity. But you can't go on, countries cannot go on like that. As I always say, leaders are just temporary custodians. They're not here for life. Yes. They also must understand the people must be given the right to choose the leader at the right time, because people's mandate is the supreme. Yes. Now, if you look at it, the LG polls, I mean, nobody's talking about it. At one point, beginning of 2023, LG elections were due to take place, and that was again, it was delayed by a year. Yes. And then many parties went to court, and there were orders that were taken. And then the Supreme Court gave an order directing the Finance Ministry to declare the funds. And then, you know, we saw a lot of parties going on. Now, today, nobody is talking about the LG elections. And then they brought in the whole delimitation factor and the delimitation report, which is report, and then the Section 3 of the Act, which says, you know, until the delimitation is sorted, you cannot have elections. So, I mean, you know, you bring in different rhetorics at different times and try to delay elections. And today, if you take the local government system, the system is not functioning. I mean, you have a set of commissioners around the country who are managing it. Yes, you can say they are doing a good job or bad job, but you know, but then why do you need representatives? Yes. Now, there are certain functions that are to be performed by the local council. There's the Local Council Act and the ordinance, and by way of it, there are certain functions. So those things must happen in the country. Yes. That is the democracy. That is people's right, and people should have their representatives to go and complain or, you know, raise their issues and for it to be resolved. But today, what we see is the LG system, LG elections. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about the LG functionality. It's just long gone, forgotten. Then we can go to the provincial councils, but that is also long gone, forgotten. Now, here in Sri Lanka, it's a three-tiered governing structure. Yes. Now, out of the three-tiered governing structure, the LG is not functioning. The provincial councils are not functioning. And if you take the parliament, does the parliament have legitimacy? Because the people's mandate. So we saw with Gotabaya Rajapaksa, 2/3 were given, but that 2/3 is no longer there. There were crossovers, and Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe was elected by 134 people in parliament. So those are not, the parliament never elected,
it's not a direct representation.
So actually, if you come to think of it, people's mandate is not represented in any form of government. And even if the president, yes, it is legitimate, but there is no legitimacy. Right. So today, if you really look at it, in Sri Lanka, people's mandate is not what is being exercised, and people are here watching, and people are also not being given that right to vote. Right. So ideally, I would say democracy is there for the word's sake, but there is no democracy
it's not being practiced.
In practice. It's sad to say that in Sri Lanka, democracy is there for convenience, and democracy is not there for practicality or for people to exercise democracy. Yeah, it's just democracy for convenience. I mean, if you really look at it, this particular president, when the constitutional coup happened back in 2018,
yes.
I personally myself was on the road fighting for democracy, fighting against the constitutional coup. There were many of us who went to court, for those cases because we wanted to restore democracy and to safeguard the office of the Prime Minister back in the day. And this particular president was the PM, and now he is the executive. And now the democracy that was for convenience. Now, actually, is this executive? Has he destroyed democracy? Is a question that one must ask.
Right.
I mean, these are. At one point, he was called the epitome of democracy. Now, one can say, is he the destroyer of democracy? I mean, these are hard questions that people of this country must ask. Then again, you can blame the people also because it's people's, I would say, political illiteracy or illiteracy of their knowledge on law, or is it that they are, battled up with day-to-day problems that no longer they have time to question these factors? So
I want to touch on that topic, Lihini. You brought out a very important point. You spoke about political illiteracy, or in other words, political apathy in Sri Lanka, where people most of the time, in most of the elections, they vote based on their emotions and not on pragmatism and who will serve them better. But this time around, especially after what happened and transpired during the Aragalaya, the people's eyes seem to have opened. Politicians, policymakers, leaders cannot get away scot-free with what they're doing, engaging in corruption or in duplicity and so on. You have your own constituents. Being a member of a municipal council, have you been engaging with your constituents? What are they saying? Are they ready to make an informed decision this time around, regardless of which election takes place?
So people at any level, they are frustrated with what is exactly going on because their right to life has been robbed.
Yes.
Because today people can't afford their basic 3 meals. I mean, you come to a situation where where a mother has to break the bun into 2 and give it to the children. Yes. Split 1 egg and give it to 2 children. I mean, they decide to decide which meal should they consume. Yes. So I mean, these are basics of the people necessity has been robbed. So because of that, people are actually angry with the leaders who rob their right to life. So they are also waiting for an election to go and cast their mandate. So where the mandate will go, in which way? Again, you know how Sri Lanka, as you very rightly said, very emotional. We are very emotional people. So always a political rhetoric, a snake that comes out of a bottle, or it's time to save the country, yes. Or a political narrative can always twist and turn. Yes. And now we see many 74 years of curse and things, lovely narratives that are being taken place. So I mean, people at the end of the day, there's a saying, people get who they deserve. So people will at the end of the day decide. I mean, however much, whether they want an economic turnaround in this country, whether they want the country to prosper in the right direction by taking hard measures, or do they want to, choose a leader who will give temporary fixes, or do they want a leader who will come, talk and do nothing, and who will say we will catch rogues and do nothing. So I mean, at the end of the day, people will decide, but people are waiting for an election, and people are also angry of the fact that they are not being given that right to vote.
Right.
So we hope that this year is supposed to be an election year, and that an election will take place, because if you don't have the mandate, you cannot take certain decisions against the will of the people.
Yes.
So that is important, even to make reforms, even to reduce costs, even to bring the state sector expenses down. All that must happen with the mandate of the people. So that's what the rulers of this country needs to understand.
Right. So talking about elections and the SJB's role as the main opposition, to nudge the people in the direction of the SJB, to give the people some sort of hope, to say that the SJB is the ultimate savior of this nation. What sort of steps have the SJB taken on a grassroots level to promote the SJB's footing and the SJB's policies? We know that the SJB has the blueprint, which is the economic policy.
Yeah.
We know the SJB has certain shadow members who have been appointed to analyze foreign policy, the laws that are being applied in the country, and so on. So what sort of role is the SJB playing to convince the people that the SJB is the right fit to rule the country?
So I want to say this very clearly. SJB is the alternative. There's no other alternative in this country but SJB. I hope the people of this country realize, because SJB does not always talk to please things to please people's ears. They talk the right fact. Yes, I will say this. No political party has 100% saints. No political party has untainted people. There are issues in every political party. But then we have the better team. We have the team that comprises of economists, educationalists, lawyers, professionals, and also people who love the country, people who will govern with empathy, people who will govern with respect to law, people who will respect rule of law. We have the right team. We have the women's wing of SJB who understands women related problems, the youth wing. So we as a party, I would say, is well structured with different arms focusing on different sectors, and we have drawn up our policies in these different avenues as well. Mr. Sajid Premadas has engaged in extensive discussions with lot of stakeholders across various sectors. So he is an individual who has a rounded understanding, and also he has the, we call it the Buddhi Jatikam Buddhi Mandape, the professionals organization compiling of many professionals, local as well as overseas, and also culmination of lawyers. We recently had our lawyers forum also. So I mean, if you really look at it, we know what to do. We know what to do. Whether the people see that we know what to do is a question which the party must communicate which far more effectively, which I would say. But yes, we have the right team, and we know we have people who have actually been in governance. That is also important. People, I mean, no offense to this and no offense to the NPP. People come out and talk about it, but you know, people with experience talking about it and people without experience saying, look, we will do this, is a different story. I mean, people who have been in government, who has had hands-on experience, they know how to steer the country in the right direction, and that comprises only in SJB, and that is one of the factors why people should also consider SJB, because we have the right team and we have put out the blueprint which clearly says the economic plan, and we will be putting out our many more policies across various other sectors. Recently, Mr. Sajid Premadas at the Lawyers Forum declared 16 certain points that when in SJB government, how we will, what we will implement in respect of rule of law and how to ensure law and order prevails in the country. So, you know, we have our structures in place. I think people in this country must start seeing SJB as the alternative, as the party that has the solution, and also the right leadership. Not just one individual, but a team of people.
Right. So since you're an attorney at law, I'm pretty sure that you're abreast with all of the controversial regulations, the legislation that has been passed in Sri Lanka in recent months and are currently being debated in Parliament as well. For our viewers, I'm talking about the Online Safety Act, I'm talking about the Prevention of Terrorism Bill, I'm also talking about the Media Regulation Bill that is also in the works. So what sort of decisions will the SJB take should it come to power regarding all of these regressive policies and laws that have been introduced in recent times?
So SJB has clearly said, you know, we come to power, Online Safety Security Bill will be one of the first things that will be repealed. We have clearly stated that. I mean, why does a leader need to hide away behind draconian laws of this nature? That is what one should question. Why does this present executive need to hide behind Online Safe Security Bills, Prevention of Terrorism Acts, Broadcasting Regulations Act, which curtails people's freedom of expression and freedom of assembly and people's right to express their opinion? Why? Dissenting views, people are entitled to express their dissenting views. The leader must listen to the dissenting views, because that is a people's right. When people criticize, because people are not happy. So for that, the solution is not shutting down people's right to speak, but to understand the problem and give a solution to the problem. I mean, what I would say is these leaders are used to governing in an old school method. They don't understand that we live in a digital era, in an era where social media where people are more into engagement, more into talking, more on online platforms, expressing their
views and opinions. Yes,
I don't think the present leaders understand that. They think that they can govern this country the same way they governed the country back in 1980s with the fist and the strong arming. It doesn't work anymore. We live in a world of digitalization. We live in a world of free thinking. So a leader must understand the sentiments of the people and govern accordingly. The way to govern is not to bring all these draconian laws and hide behind it, but to understand what the people are saying and to cater to the people's needs. You must have a dialogue with the people. You must go together with the people, because at the end of the day, you are ruling. You're making the decisions for the people, not against the people. What has happened in this country, it's about securing power. It's about me, my generation, my future. How do I protect my power for the generations? I mean, that system is collapsing. No longer can you have the same rhetoric and the narrative and continue. I think we will see a shift if these regulations and if this repression and control are brought forward. You will see people retaliating. You can't control the people in that sense, because that no longer works.
So Lihini, earlier on in the program you said that the SJB is the only alternative to the current government, but in recent weeks we've seen there have been certain instances of infighting between certain members within the SJB who hold top positions, and I know by now those have been addressed, and we saw even today that an interim injunction was issued by the court regarding that particular matter. So if the SJB cannot clean house and have its house in order, what do you think the people will feel when they go to the polling booth and think about voting for the SJB?
See, Jamal, no party has everything perfect. Every party has their issues in what sense, whether those issues are resolved in-house or whether those issues are resolved openly out there is a question. But I don't think no longer should that issues, side away the good that SJB offers. Yes, there are certain leaders, there are dissenting views, there are dissenting opinions. Probably, I think, it's not just about the SJB, but also the concerned individual. When they make certain statements, are they making it to fulfill their personal agenda? Those are factors that one needs to consider. So if there is a fault, the fault lies in both parties, not just one single party. So it has to be addressed. But that doesn't mean that is a core problem to reject SJB per se, because there are a lot of good things in the party, and I think these internal issues will obviously be resolved, because clearly if one goes to court and get an injunction against preventing him from being taken out of a chairmanship, clearly that also indicates that he wants to be with the party. So then if he wants to be with the party, he must also fall in line with the party, because at the end of the day, if it's a political party, there needs to be certain level of controls, there needs to be certain level of disciplinary measures, there are party ethics, party rules. One must fall in line. Yes, there is democracy, but democracy not to tarnish the reputation of the party. So, one must understand. So, yes, we have the free thinking and free expression, but, that shouldn't damage the party's reputation also. So, I think these matters are to be resolved. I mean, there's a working committee. These matters will be resolved eventually, but that doesn't mean that there is instability within the party or anything of that sort, because the party is stronger in its own right, and the party has its own people and its own set of people that steers the party forward.
Right. So again, you spoke about the SJB being the only alternative, but again you mentioned the NPP and its sudden surge in popularity. We saw last week how the leader of the NPP and a contingent of people representing the NPP took in to India. They met with some of the top brass of India's political structure, administrative structure as well. So do you believe that the NPP will also be a threat to the SJB come election season, any sort of election, apart from the SLPP, the legacy parties? Do you believe the sudden surge in popularity, from a neutral perspective, the NPP will pose a threat to the SJB of any nature?
Of course not. NPP shines, I would like to say this, NPP shines in its glory until the rest of the people are not campaigning. The moment we all start campaigning and talking the facts out, then people will truly see whatever they talk, whether they can sustain. I mean, it's actually, amusing to see some of the factors that NPP is saying right now in terms of their approach towards India versus their party policies. So these are factors probably we will talk in our campaign stages to educate people about the shift between the JVP and the NPP. I personally think that there is no distinction, that it is the JVP, there is no NPP. That is my personal view, and I think it's a view of majority, because though you talk about there is a shift, it is the JVP.
In essence.
It is the JVP, and it is that same JVP thinking that is there. And also one of the factors what people in this country don't talk about. We're talking about the Rajapaksas being responsible for the economic downturn, and they are being called the economic murderers of this country. But one forgets that the first economic murderers of this country is JVP, and the destruction that they did to this country back in the day. That who is responsible for that? The 60,000 lives that were lost and the brain drain that occurred. What is the quantum that was lost to the Sri Lankan economy back in the day? Has that been resolved? Has anybody gone to court and tried to claim it out of the JVP? Nobody has done that. So they are also equally responsible, and they can't come back and say, look, 74 years you all destroyed, we did nothing. They are equally responsible too. So I think people of this country must, understand that just because on campaign stages, just because you have an emotional campaign appealing to the people, appealing to the women of this country, and talking and marketing the sorrows of the people, that is not the way to govern. We also can get on a campaign stage tomorrow and appeal to the people and say, look, your right to life has been taken out. But which party has the solution? Which party can drive change? Which party has the right people with knowledge? Talking is one thing, delivering is another thing. So you need to have people who will deliver. Does NPP have the people who can deliver, or does SJB have the people who can deliver? I will very rightly say the country can be steered only with SJB, and people must see that, and I hope people will see that.
Right. So talking about bringing wrongdoers to book, fraud and corruption is one major aspect in Sri Lanka that has led us to this situation at present. And should the SJB come to power, what sort of policy will the SJB follow in terms of bringing wrongdoers to book? We know that there have been many scams over many decades that have gone unaddressed. Yes, legal proceedings are ongoing, but those legal proceedings are taking many years, and eventually it fades away from the people's memory. So what sort of a decision will the SJB take in terms of bringing the wrongdoers to book, to recovering stolen or lost assets, and to getting that money back, like the people very rightly said, to getting the money that we have lost in the process of all of these scams?
So we have spoken at many instances about stolen asset recovery initiative that should be implemented. I mean, World Bank has a stolen asset recovery initiative. The Parliament needs to pass in a certain regulation enabling that, and then the rest of the course will take place. So SJB has clearly communicated that they will be implementing the stolen asset recovery initiative in Sri Lanka, and that in an SJB government, law and order will be given prominence, and no person will be tolerated this corruption. It is a firm factor. It is accepted that if you want to tolerate corruption within a corrupt practice, the countries can't go forward. And SJB leader Mrs. Ajit Premadasa is a firm believer that law and order must be implemented, and that the administration of this country must take precedence. It's not about the politician coming and taking control. That is the problem in this country. What we see, Jamal, is how the politician is interfering in the state administration, and how these organizations, the election commissions, the public service commissions, be it all the other commissions, the bribery and corruption commissions, all these bribery commissions, all these commissions, though there are individuals, do they have the autonomy to exercise?
They're not independent.
Independent. Is the police commission has the authority to make decisions? I mean, we saw the IGP drama drama in this country. So, even the state officials who are in these particular positions, can the state officials act in the interest of the state,
of the people,
of the taxpayer, versus acting in the interest of the politicians? So these things, strengthening the state sector, these are the things that, we have been in discussion, and these are the things that will be implemented. I think, we must also understand for this country to be in this state, the control of the politician must be diminished,
right.
and the politicians' interference towards the administrative structure must be diminished. Now, I can very clearly say this. I've been a local council member. There are commissioners. There's municipal commissioner. There's a municipal auditor, a municipal accountant. Now, these are all government individuals.
Yes.
They must act in the interest of the people. The mayor can't come in and
not be influenced by higher ups.
So those individuals must stand up against the mayor. And then if there are governors that are appointed at the higher level, all of them must act in the interest of the people. If they did, we will have a different situation in this country.
Right.
Then the politician will be put in their right place. So you must you must strengthen the state administration, appoint people through meritocracy, not give jobs and appointments and positions based on power and political connections. So if you have a leader who understands this and who can put the system in place, then the system will take its course.
Right.
That's what you need. You need a leader who appreciates the law, who understands the law, and who will abide by the law.
So very quickly for our viewers, the SJB is confident, should it come to power, that it will execute everything successfully like we spoke about.
Hopefully, yes. I hope the people in this country will have that confidence in SJB, and will see that we are the alternative.
Right.
That can steer this country in the right direction.
Right, and that's the way it was on Face to Face this evening. My guest tonight was Attorney at Law Lihini Fernando, representing the main opposition, Samagi Janapala Vegaya. We spoke about many things, from polls to the economic policies to fraud and corruption, law and order, so on. Thank you very much for joining me this evening once more.
Thank you for having me.
Lihini, and take care and good night.